What is going on, guys? Happy Tuesday, happy Monday, whether you're listening on YouTube or on the podcast platforms. Welcome back to Eat, Train, Prosper. This is episode 201, and Bryan and I are coming off of a 3, potentially 4-week hiatus from recording, mostly driven by the fact that I was traveling back to the United States, getting married, going house hunting in Utah, having some time away. And I'm just very big on what I like to say, like doing things right and well. Like when I am set up here, we have the podcast, not necessarily a studio, but I have like my camera, I have my microphone. In full transparency, did not have the suitcase space to take a podcast mic in the camera. And I just don't like doing things not properly, right? So I kind of requested that we just take a few weeks away, especially considering that I knew that I would overstretch myself and overcommit already to the things that I had already agreed to do during my trip, which turned out to be 100% accurate. So I just wanted one less thing on my plate as well. But we're back, and we are going to talk about really just what the last 3 weeks have been like. So it's been effectively 3 weeks since I talked to Bryan as well. So I want to catch up with him as much as I'm sure he would like to catch up with me. And you guys are all in for an episode listening to that happening. So if you can, like always, Bryan, kick us off with a little bit to start us off here, please.
Yeah, it's been an interesting 3 weeks. I can't say mine has been quite as event-filled as yours. I didn't get married or travel, halfway around the world and back. So I've had a few things going on, which I'm sure we'll get into and discuss. I want to chat a little bit about some of the things that are on my mind regarding training and life and health and longevity and all that good stuff. And we're going to get into all that. But first, I do really want to hear about Aaron's last 3 weeks, specifically because getting married is probably a little bit more important than what I think about health and longevity. So let's kick it back over to Aaron and kind of hear a bit of a rundown on the way things all went, like coming from Bali to the US, where you headed, how you got into, I guess it was Wintergreen, where the wedding was, and what that whole kind of trip and experience was like.
Yeah, definitely. So we left on September 19th. We flew from Bali to Dulles because where we stayed is in somewhere in Virginia. I really need to learn actually the proximity of where it is. I think like mid Virginia, which is like a very unhelpful answer. Just not at the top, not at the bottom, somewhere in the middle generally. And we flew through Qatar. And I actually do have a bit of an update there. Like most 9.9 times out of 10, like flying is just this disastrous situation where you're just like miserable. The things that are supposed to work don't work. And, it's just kind of like everyone's, TV unit and screen works perfectly fine. And you get the bunk one, like that the fucking buttons don't press and stuff like that. Like that always seemingly finds a way to happen. This one time was that one time out of 10. Qatar Airlines, I believe it is, or Airways or whatever the word is, recently partnered with Starlink to provide Starlink internet to their large flights. It worked amazingly. None of those restrictions of like where you can't use YouTube or whatever. It was just Starlink, like 90 megabytes down, like 60 up. It worked fucking incredibly. And that first like 12-hour flight, Jenny and I worked for like the first 6 hours and I got so much stuff done. It was amazing. And I was like, this is the way it should be. It was so nice to start the trip off with just like that victory. The one thing that I wasn't prepared for, however, is all the like boomers on the plane just FaceTimed with their friends and stuff on it. I was like, no.
Talking during the plane flight?
Yes, like just on video calls being like, oh, what are you doing? Yeah, I'm on the plane. I was like, you're abusing it. It's going to get taken away if you guys do this shit. Like, no more fucking FaceTiming everyone. So besides that, I mean, like
Starlink's the future for sure.
Yeah, it worked so well and it was so cool. I was like very, very pleased. Traveling back was great. We got Jenny's mom picked us up. We went straight to Chipotle, which is a bit of a tradition. Then we hit the grocery store on the way home. And I was just like, the first like week of the trip. It's just all those like niceties that we just don't have, here. And just going back to it, and everyone was like making fun of me because I was like super excited to buy like 96.4 ground beef, and like eat ground beef. Where someone's like, you don't want like like a sirloin or something. I was like, no, I just want this super lean ground beef. I'm gonna make like ground beef, white rice, avocado, like kimchi, and veg, like and hot sauce, and I wanted that so badly, and that was very, very fulfilling. We had a bunch of Amazon stuff to go through, like last minute wedding things. So it was a lot, like it was fun coming back, but then there was a lot of like all the little final wedding things that we had to do and running around and stuff. So it was like quite hectic, but it was fun. It was fun to just be a little bit colder, like drive again. One of the things that was like really enjoyable that I had kind of taken for granted is just like walking through the neighborhood on like normal paved roads that are wide, and you don't have to worry about like a fucking truck getting within inches of you as you're, going by and stuff. So that was like just the basics of walking down the street in like suburbia USA. I was like, this is kind of fucking nice, that you take for granted a bit. So it was really nice to appreciate the small things. However, at the same time, like, those fade really quickly upon like a full-time return, which kind of sucks in its own regard. But I did really, really enjoy that in the first like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, I mean, hold on to that. Keep that gratitude so that when you're in Utah in a few months and you're walking down a nice wide road in the spring, you can look up and still appreciate everything that you have at this point.
Yeah.
Cool. So you got to Dulles, you went to Wintergreen. What was like Wintergreen as far as I remember it, because I skied there as a kid a few times. It is mostly just like a ski town, right? It's not like you have a great town with like wonderful gyms and restaurants and all that. Like most of it's enclosed within the ski resort, right?
100% accurate. There's absolutely fuck all there besides the ski resort.
Yeah. So what was that? Like how many days were you there? And before we get into like the actual wedding and stuff, like how did you train at all during that time kind of leading up to it in Wintergreen? What'd you end up doing?
Oh yeah. We drove up on Thursday and stayed Thursday night, Friday night. The wedding was on Friday, Saturday night, Sunday night. So we did that. There was a powerhouse gym, like it was called Powerhouse Shenandoah, that was in, I believe the town was called Waynesboro, and that was about like a 32-minute drive each way. And the kind of ironic part was it takes you like 12 minutes to get out of the actual resort, because it's like, it's like that winding road, coming down and off the mountain. And then the kicker is like, it's late September, and it was just a bunch of old people actually driving the speed limit of 25 miles per hour up the winding road. So like, and then the one day, like the first day I went to the gym, I got stuck behind an actual tractor going down it, going like 12 miles per hour. And I was like, I'm like 6 cars behind it too. So it's like, I can't even be reckless and try and pass this thing. Like there's I'm just dealing with it. So the gym was like a bit of a hike, but I don't know. It was worth it to me. So I ended up going like I said, we were up there. They're up there Thursday. I didn't train Thursday. I trained Friday morning before the wedding. I didn't train Saturday. I didn't. I trained Sunday and then trained Monday. Monday, as we were driving back, I heavily handed steered everyone to train at this sick gym in Charlottesville called Iron Will. So
I saw those videos. I looked up. Cool. So wedding things. I'm so bummed to miss it. And like Kendall hit me up and said that he was expecting me to be there and was bummed that I missed that. So I feel like I missed out on an opportunity to see, obviously, you and Jenny, which I'm sure I'll see you again at some point, but people like Kendall and Driscoll and some of those other guys that trained at CFPB with us that I stay in touch with through Instagram and stuff like that, but I haven't actually seen them in probably 6-7 years at this point. It was an opportunity that I'm really bummed to have missed all around. And so hopefully there'll be another opportunity for everyone to get together here in the next decade or so.
Yeah, maybe there could be some old CFPB reunion party or something like that
Yeah,
gathering
we all
somewhere.
come to Salt Lake and welcome you to home or something like that. Yeah. So how was everything on I guess Thursday night was like a pre celebration, and then Friday was the wedding. So kind of run me through what that whole weekend experience was like.
Yeah, so Thursday we did like a little what is that called?
Hmm.
Rehearsal. And then like a rehearsal dinner with family, immediate family. And then we did like a welcome party of like everyone, in town, and that was really cool. One thing that was really, I mean, it was cool, but it was also like really wild is this was the first time Jenny and I's family had met.
Oh
And
wow.
I mean, Jenny and I have been together for like 11 years.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So,
crazy.
my mom had met, I believe, Jenny's mom one other time, but um, yeah, it was the first time. Because like on my side of the family, I'm like a big divorced family. Parents are both divorced twice, which is like I don't fucking care, but there's a lot of extra moving pieces, right, in coordinating getting people together, and it just doesn't happen, right? So that was cool to have everyone in one place. And then Thursday at the welcome party, it was in full transparency, it was overwhelming, but fortunately for me, so I've had so many life experiences this year that have been like very overwhelming that I felt like helped prepare me for that, because the things like the shows, especially like winning my pro card, was like incredibly overwhelming. And it was like, oh, well, this is all, at least this isn't strangers that I have to do this with. It's all like my family and friends. It's like people I've talked to and stuff before. But it was the hardest thing I found was like dividing my time, and being like, okay, like just the way it worked out. The last group of friends at the welcome party that I got to like round over to was like Driscoll and Kendall and everyone. And like, I mean, that's like, I wanted to see them very early on. And then I didn't make it there until so much later. And, that kind of sucked. And then at one point I'm like scanning, okay, have I talked to everyone? I'm like, and then I'm like, look, I'm like, my fucking mom. I barely talked to my mom. So it's like, what, fuck, what am I doing? Like, I got to talk to my mom. So, that was a lot for me. But it was nice having the welcome party because you got a solid chunk of that done. So then, like on the wedding day, it was like playing like a secondary catch up, and I didn't feel like as pressured to try and like
Yeah.
distribute my time well and stuff.
Yeah, it's all a little scattered and fast paced, frenetic on those days for sure. I think that as much as you do want to be cognizant to talk to all the people and make sure you give them like a little piece of your time, I also think it's important in those situations to remember that like you are the one that's stretched, like it's your day, your weekend, and like that's probably the most important thing. And that if people really want your attention, they can kind of come find you as well. So not to like be over sensitive about it or try to, overexert yourself too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my
So,
thought anyways. I got married.
yeah. So like Thursday was really, really cool. And then into Friday, um, the girls obviously had the plan of like the makeup and all that stuff. And I just didn't. And I was like, you know what? Can I, like, what time do I really need to be back? And those sorts of things. Like, can I swing going to the gym? And I asked Jenny and she's like, yeah, go to the gym. And I was like, that's all I needed. Like, I'm off. I'm in the car off to the powerhouse, like 33 minutes away. Um, and then I got there and Driscoll was there and Timmy Green, if you remember him. He
Yeah.
would pop into the gym like periodically sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, and so I got to train with them, which was like awesome. The gym was super cool for it being so close. We were very fortunate there. And then I, in typical Aaron fashion, was just having way too much fun training and like was like, I want to do this now and this now. And then I was like, you know what? I don't know when I have. And I was trying to find the schedule, but the way that the wedding coordinator and everyone, we had like 30 different email threads of all like the same 4 people. And I could not find the schedule. And I had no idea when I needed to be back. And the ceremony started at like 4 and it's getting to like noonish and I'm still at the gym and I'm like, oh, I was like, Jenny, and I just do not know. And I'm like, fuck, I gotta leave. Like, and I'm like panicking. I'm like, this is par for the course. Like, where's Aaron on his wedding day? And like, this dumbass is at the fucking gym that he doesn't need to be at right now. Like, being selfish with this time, and I'm like panicking. And then I get back and like, no, everyone's still getting their hair done and stuff, and I don't need to do anything for like 2 hours. And I'm like, okay, all right. But at least I made the right choice of like, you know what? I don't know when I need to be back. I'm going to be conservative and leave now and not gamble on it.
Yeah, that's a smart move. And luckily it only takes you like 30 minutes to get ready.
Yeah, it was pretty smooth. The suit fit and everything like that, which was really, really nice. The plan of not training any arms or delts worked quite nicely. I was able to keep food like really, really in check still. Body weight sat really, really nice. The reduction of, my androgens from contest prep levels down to just like TRT went down to like 175 megs of just the testosterone worked like really, really well. And I just kind of shrank, and everything fit well. It was not like, it was still, tight in certain spots, but it fit pretty comfortably and appropriately, which was wonderful.
Cool. How has your body weight changed since that point? Like, I know it's only been, 2 weeks since then, but like, have you gained back some of that, or what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, since food's come up and like, I've been able to like, now that like the stress is down and I'm like sleeping better and I'm like eating more consistently and I've trained a lot more, like my body weight's back up. I'm above. So some of that's probably a little bit of like travel related, as well. But I was like 226 or 227 today. And I'm like, okay, dude, we don't want to be this big. We got to like, I'm going to give it to like the end of the week and see things there. But then, like the cardio, I had my first like actual cardio session in today. But then also part of my fertility restoration process is, like one of them is HCG, which is a female pregnancy hormone that also works well for stimulating the, I forget if it's the Sertoli cells or the, one of the, it's effective in increasing intratesticular testosterone in males. The downside is it also aromatizes on its own, and I am a high aromatizer. So, already, so I'll probably have to like manage some fluid retention, high estrogen symptoms, and those sorts of things, which typically come with like, body weight increases. So if I see it, rising over a couple of days and getting any of those other symptoms, I'm like, okay, I know I have to manage this. But the HCG is just I would not call it an absolutely necessary part of the protocol, but there's like a 1A and a 1B, and HCG is the 1B. So it would be kind of silly for me not to use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so wedding was awesome. The ceremony looked incredible. I saw the pictures like with the mountains in the background and everything. So beautiful.
We got super lucky. The weather forecast did not look very favorable. It was like rainy and we didn't know what we were going to get. And as we were doing our rehearsal, it's like blue skies, amazing, good. Our wedding rehearsal was all of like maybe 18 minutes because it's like 6 of us up there, right? Yeah. And by the time we got to the end, the clouds rolled in. It was super foggy and started raining on us the day before. So at like 12 noon the day of, we had to say whether we were going to do it or not. So we're like, yeah, let's just go for it. We see what happens. And literally as we were like coming off the bus and starting, like the clouds just like parted and it was a perfectly blue skies. Like, and we could not have gotten any more lucky with how the weather just opened up for us. And then literally the next day, just shit rained all day long. Disgusting weather. So
hey, at least it opened up for you guys. Yeah, it was
exactly. Yeah, we got very, very lucky. Yeah.
Sweet. Cool. Well, what do you have else to say about the wedding, or should we move on to kind of transitioning into going to Utah and all that?
The only thing I will say that it's kind of funny is something that I was pretty adamant about is I wanted us to write our own vows. I don't know why. It was just something I wanted to do. And you know what? I know why. Our friend Rob Hammer, when he got married in like 2013 or 2014, like they wrote their own vows. And I really, really liked that. Okay. And I just felt it was it was just like more real, like I've been to the number of weddings where people are just like reading off of, whether it's biblical, if that's people's things or whatever, but I wanted it to be a little bit more like personal and for both of us, and honestly a little bit more uncomfortable. too, as a bit of like a challenge. And then, of course, in typical Jenny and Aaron fashion, we made it a competition to see who could write the better vows. I believe I won, which I'm very
Nice.
happy about. Um,
Does she believe
but
that
yeah,
too?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
One thing I wasn't prepared for was every time I like practiced my vows, like I couldn't make it through them without crying. You know, I would just be like here in my room, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be a fucking mess on game day. And then I started getting like pretty confident. But one thing I wasn't prepared for is Jenny went first. So by the time I started, I'm already at like 65% crying. And then I get into mine, and I was like, I barely held it together. Like, yeah, but I knew that would happen, but I was happy that I could like hold it together enough to deliver my vows, and it was good. I was very, very happy with how everything went. And then one of my favorite parts of the wedding was, you know, after the ceremony, before we went to like cocktail hour and stuff, we did photos with some family and stuff. And it was the only time in my life I had my entire immediate family together for a photo. So like my mom,
Special.
my dad, my stepdad, my sister from my mom, my brother and sister from my dad. And I think I said my dad already. And obviously now Jenny. But even like, you know, removing Jenny, like I've never had a photo or my family together at once. So that was pretty important for me.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Very special.
Yeah.
Cool. So then you guys picked up and you went to Utah, and the plan was to check out where you might be living, look at some houses, all that stuff. So how did that go? Did you find what you were looking for?
Yeah, it was actually wonderful. So we you know, met with a realtor and drove around, and you know, we found out what we needed. So we looked at a couple houses, and we knew we needed at least like a 3-bedroom because we wanted to like, I mean, I don't know, you buy a home, you have to plan to be in the home for like, I don't know, like 7 years or something like that. And the reality is like, there's, you know, we need a bedroom. I need a place to work. That's 2. Jenny needs a place to work. We want to have a room that can accommodate like 1 to 2 children. And then anyone who comes to like visit, sort of thing, which I'm big on. So I think one of the offices can also duplicate as like a spare guest room. So we realized like we need 4 spaces.
Yeah.
So we needed at least a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom or a 3-bedroom with a flex, which is more common since like, you know, houses built since the pandemic. So that was like really, really helpful. And then we, you know, looked around and saw that because we're in this kind of interesting period in the United States housing market where like new homes are cheaper than used homes or whatever you call it. Not a used
Because there's like
home,
an
or,
excess
like,
supply of homes at the moment with all the new ones popping up.
that, and like the investors were building so many, or home builders were building so many homes, and now they have to like incentivize to move them because the market's like slowing down.
Yeah.
But you could like, when we're going in these brand new homes, and you can just kind of tell that they're just, I don't know, it felt very kind of like used car salesman-esque, even though it's new. But like, you're looking at things and you're like, this is built for like speed and convenience. And it didn't feel very like, I don't want to like live here sort of thing.
They feel like sterile, sort of.
Yeah. Like it felt, I mean, it's obvious that when people like build homes, it's to make money off of them. But it felt like, you know, if a home was built in like 2012 or 2015, at least they were like trying, you know, to make it feel like a home. Whereas like now it feels more like an immediate transaction in like the build quality and how things are designed and stuff. So initially I thought like, no, I want one of these new homes. It's brand new, right? Like, why would I want a used home? And then after like walking through a couple of them, I'm like, these older ones are better. So it was good to find out, you know, what we wanted, and more specifically what we didn't want. And then the area. So Jenny was joking, one of the first things that I would do when we would like pull up to the next place we would look at is I would immediately pull up Google Maps and see how close it was to the gym. And they were like, kind of like poking fun at me. I'm like, this is where we will drive more than any other place that we will drive. Why would I want a like 24-minute drive to the gym when I can have like a 12-minute drive to the gym? Right? That's a big deciding factor. That 10 minutes both directions over 5-6 days per week, compounding over months and years of time is a gargantuan amount of time to spend or get back. But fortunately, like everything, we found out like the general area, that we want to live and what would work and what wouldn't. So it was really cool. And then something that was also nice is I think we're gonna have a lot more options than we thought, which is cool.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. So you just were mostly looking at houses. There wasn't like an offer put down or anything. Did you mark any down as like, hey, we'll come back to this one in a month or two and look at it again? Or
No, none of the ones we looked at would actually work.
Gotcha.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. 2 of them would have been perfectly viable homes to buy and we could make work, but they weren't, like 9s out of 10 for us. And because we don't have like a hard timeline, we're just going to kind of keep looking. And the realtor suggested like really starting to look around like Thanksgiving, and there's probably some deals to be had in like November, December, but realistically anytime from like November through like March. And when we find what we want, we'll make an offer or something like that. We'll either go back out and visit in person, or, we can send a friend that we stayed with, Brandon, to go look, and he'll give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down or there.
Sweet.
So just, plan the kind of waiting game. Nothing needs to be decided upon like immediately, but it's very exciting. And one thing I will kind of quickly share, I was a little bit, have you ever, you kind of romanticize periods in the past based off like your memory of them, and then when you like revisit them, kind of like an old girlfriend or something like that you guys floated away for whatever reason, and then you're planning to like reconnect and you think it's gonna be great, and then you realize it's just a fucking disaster, and that's why you guys like split up in the first place. So I was a little bit afraid that that's what Utah was going to be like, because we spent like 4 months there one summer in 2021 and haven't been back since, and know only a few people there, don't really know too much about the area, and we're like, oh yeah, we're just gonna like move back. And I was afraid that we were gonna go for this visit and kind of get like cold feet and be like, fuck, is this the right choice? Did I just romanticize that one summer for no particular reason? No, it's literally better than I remember. Jenny felt the exact same way. We both were like 11 out of 10s. This is where we want to, set up shop in the States. So I was very happy to be right and not wrong there.
Yeah, that's great, man. Really glad to hear that. I know exactly kind of the analogy that you're making there. So very cool. I was going to say, if it didn't meet your expectations, like Boulder is a very welcoming place that you guys could move to. So there's always that as a backup.
Yeah, I'm very much excited for like a mountain atmosphere, because I'm always going to have like Bali's going to be here. There's always going to be work to come back to Asia and stuff like that. So I'm excited just to have the best of my like 2 worlds that I like.
Yeah. Very cool, man. So that was it. And then you guys go back to Bali, and we're here and we're doing a podcast, and we're talking about our last 3 weeks, and now it's all done.
Yeah. The one thing that I really glossed over, but I got to train at so many cool gyms, and it was really like I was going to say the highlight of my trip, which I cannot say because that's obviously not
because you got married.
Getting married was, yeah. But it was a highlight. It was just, I mean, we trained at the Powerhouse Gym, which was like really cool. We trained at Iron Will in Charlottesville, which has like all old like American cult bodybuilding stuff. We actually got married like 2 days before the wedding, because we had to do like an actual like
courthouse wedding.
I forget, like a courthouse wedding, because Virginia has strange rules around like who can marry you. So we did that, and then we immediately went to RVA Iron in Richmond, which is like one of my favorite gyms ever. Trained together, which we very rarely do. That was cool. And then in Utah, we went to the Refinery Gym, which will be like our home gym when we're there. It, I believe, is one of the best gyms in the country. Equipment wise, it is absolutely massive. Everything under the sun is in there. They have 8 leg presses, like an absurd amount of leg presses, and duplicates of everything. It's not like, we're going to use the hack squat today. It's like, which of 3 hack squats do you want to use?
It sounds like the gym in San Diego, like the gym.
Oh,
it's just like,
it's like
you
that,
walk in there and they have like a whole level of just leg machines. Like literally it's 8 leg presses, 4 hack squats, like 3 different pendulum squats, 6 different leg extension machines. Like just have your choice,
Yeah. So that, and everything is in perfect, impeccable working order. Like John, the owner, takes meticulous care of everything. Even though these machines are from like the 90s, they feel brand new, which is just awesome. Um, One other one that we trained at that had a lot of really, really cool equipment. And then like one of the things, like my friend Ben from Bangkok, well, it was who I competed with in Hong Kong. Like he was randomly in Salt Lake at the same time. So we got to like hang out and train together and show them, you know, some classic American things, take them up into the mountains and stuff. So that was just like another little cherry on top of just an absolutely wonderful trip back to the USA.
Hell yeah, that's wild that he was there in Salt Lake at the same time, all the way from Asia, where you guys were literally competing together like 3 weeks prior. That's crazy. Cool, man. Well, anything else before I kind of talk about some stuff?
I mean, not really. I did get labs done, and I'm sure we can cover this in another episode. But I mean, aside from the very small like TRT specific related things, like my labs are perfectly normal. Again,
That's awesome.
4.5 weeks post show, and I captured some like 8 days post show. And aside from some like moderate liver enzyme elevations, only AST and ALT, everything else was normal. So I still don't really know what to make of it. So I'm not going to speak like too much on it, but if I'm honest, I kind of wish they were skewed a little bit more, because it really makes me feel like everything I was doing gear wise was like very benign, which I kind of don't want to believe, but I still need to process some thoughts and do a little bit more digging on it. So I don't want to speak on it publicly too much and say things I may not know, but
I wonder how much of that is cumulative over time too. Like maybe acutely you're not seeing as big of changes as you would expect, but maybe if it were to continue for 10 or 20 years, you would see things that like start trending up, and then it's like almost impossible to get them back down because it's been so long that they've been up. So, I mean, there's always that factor to consider as well. Like it's not like you've been on gear for that long.
I mean, I think you're right. I think that is what it is. And I think it's kind of like that shock value thing. You hear about the extremes of people, you know, like I was making an example, what makes like a really good movie, like a crazy life or a crazy event. If they were to make a movie about your like mid-level salesman at mid-level America Marketing Corp who just like lives a normal 9 to 5, like there's no fucking story there, you know, where I would say like your 80% batch of like steroid users who are mostly conservative and get blood work done, like there's no story there, but the extremes is what, you know, you hear the stories about, and that's what everyone sort of thing. So that's what I think there's to some level of that. And then I do think there's obviously a cumulative exposure over time, like with anything, plays a very significant role as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree with that. And then those outlier stories that you're talking about, those like 20%. I used to follow a page, Generation Iron, because I used to want to stay updated on what was going on in like the enhanced bodybuilding world. And every single day they'd just be posting another bodybuilder that died from like probably steroids or something like that. And I just had to unfollow the page because I was like, I don't need to be hearing about these bodybuilders dying every single day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I guess my last 3 weeks have been a bit less interesting than yours. Let's see. I had some friends in town this past weekend. We went to a Red Rock show that we'd kind of been looking forward to for a while with a local guy in Denver who kind of blew up pretty big. His name's Lane 8. So we had a bunch of friends in town, took a party bus there. That was super cool this past weekend. But as far as things that most of our listeners will care about, I think the most pertinent things on my mind are first off that I was just on a really cool podcast episode with our buddy Jordan Lips, and it was different than the other 10 times I've been on his podcast, where we're either talking about optimizing hypertrophy or optimizing some sort of cardiovascular or endurance output. In this episode, what we were trying to do was actually put together a plan for somebody that is interested in optimizing health and longevity, with the stipulation that you only have 30 to 60 minutes a day, 6 days a week. So imagine like a typical person who like has it habitually in their schedule that they're going to go to the gym, you know, every day except Sunday or something along those lines, take one day off. And on each of those days, how do we kind of partition our time so that we're getting the most as far as health and longevity go? And what we realized through going through this podcast and doing this exercise was that the buckets of resistance training and endurance or cardiovascular training cover almost all of the things that you would need for health and longevity. So essentially what we did was we separated out into 5 or 6 buckets of things that you would probably want to have if you want to live the longest, most effective, well life. So we have endurance, we have resistance training, obviously, those are 2. Then we have like plyometric or balance kind of put into one category, sprinting or anaerobic work. So think about, some sort of high effort cardiovascular exercise where you can't sustain it. So the first one, endurance, would be something sustainable like zone 2, zone 3, something like that. Anaerobic would be something you can't sustain. And then the 5th bucket would be mobility. So we have these kind of 5 buckets of things that you would need to do to optimize your health and wellness and longevity. And then we took those 5 things and we made a little chart. We ranked each of them on a scale of 1 to 5 on how well they will increase your cardiovascular fitness, your metabolic health, your flexibility, your bone strength, your balance, your actual muscular strength, and your joints. So how well do each of the first 5 categories impact those 7 categories that I just mentioned? And in that chart where you're ranking each of these things from 1 to 5, resistance training actually got you a 5 on metabolic, strength, bone, and joints. So you got like 4 of the 7 categories, resistance training maxed you out. And then on flexibility, balance, it gives you like a 3 or a 4 out of 5. And so the only one that you're not getting with resistance training, or at least that you're not getting like really any stimulus, is the cardiovascular. So resistance training fills like 6 of those 7 buckets for you pretty damn well. And then cardio is the one thing that's missing. So cardio fills that other bucket. And then you're just kind of left with like, okay, the things that resistance training didn't maximize, but they did pretty well on were like balance and flexibility, and obviously cardio, but balance and flexibility being the 2. So if those are important attributes for you, you can fit in some like plyo balance work, you can do some mobility work, etc. But when you look at that week of 30 to 60 minutes, 6 days a week, what we kind of determined at the end is that spending the majority of that time doing resistance training and cardiovascular exercise is probably the basis for long-term health, wellness, and longevity. And then kind of using those other elements like flexibility and balance to kind of fill in gaps that might be more specific to where you are in your life progression. So somebody who's 40, like me, in my 40s, might not need to work on balance so much, but somebody that's in their 70s might actually need to prioritize more of that time to balance. And so I thought it was really interesting that, you go through and you look at 30 to 60 minutes, 6 days a week. And if you were to create a plan where you're lifting for 45 minutes, 3 days a week, and you're doing cardio for 45 minutes, 3 days a week, then you're essentially left with 15 minutes on every single day where you can fit in a little bit of sprint or anaerobic work, a little bit of mobility work, a little bit of plyo balance work, and just kind of fill in the gaps of all of these things that you would need for health and longevity with, 6 hours or less of total time in the gym. And this kind of like has been, as I've been ruminating on it since the podcast with Jordan, it feels like this is sort of where I want to take my own training in a sense, but more the training that I offer. Like, I think that there's extreme value in creating a program like this that can be sold on Evolved or something like that. I guess I'll talk about Evolved and Paragon in a second, but something that feels passionate to me and something that I kind of align with is this focus on the future and not just on trying to maximize hypertrophy or maximize endurance adaptations, but being able to kind of maximize life wellness through these different buckets. And so as we kind of look at, I mentioned, maybe it's a program I offer in Evolved. I kind of brought it up to Lori as something for Paragon, and she didn't really seem like super interested in it. So I'm thinking that maybe in the next few months, I might start a new program under my personal brand, Evolved Training Systems, where I offer something like this program where I specifically write out, this is the lifting. It's going to take 40 minutes for the day. We're going to add in like some sprint work or some plyo balance work or whatever. And then we'll have these cardio endurance days, and we'll have a little bit of time at the end there where we can add in, a few of these other things. And so I think that as like a general health and wellness program that fits into the structure of someone's life, it just kind of resonates with me, and it feels good to feel like I have a direction and a new something to offer people that isn't just maximizing hypertrophy or maximizing endurance adaptations.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
One is kind of a suggestion sort of thing. One thing that I've always, this is my own personal, I guess, maybe not opinion, but curiosity is probably a better term to use, of things that I think really start that we lose the ability to do as we age when we stop doing it, is to like move laterally, like in an athletic fashion. And I think that would have like a very good addition, because you said essentially like plyometrics and balance in mobility. And I think mobility, maybe not so much, but like moving laterally, like in a sport, like whether that be like basketball, soccer, tennis, something like that. I feel like that is a movement pattern that really starts to break down. Like, I don't think I could move laterally worth shit right now. And I'd probably get hurt pretty early on in attempting to do it. And I think that's probably a potential add-on consideration that gets overlooked.
Yeah, I think that definitely falls into the plyo balance category, in my opinion. I think when I think of plyo balance, I'm thinking of like, one-legged jumps, sideways and lateral movements off of one leg. Like I think that's a huge piece of it. Even in like the program at Paragon that we started a few months ago is the hybrid program, which is different than this because it's really based on maximizing, strength and hypertrophy outcomes with endurance. It's like that perfect combination of all of them with less concern on some of those other buckets. But one of the big things we include in that program is lateral movement. So we'll do, lateral lunges and, lateral like skater plyos, weighted skater plyos, single leg jumps, hops, rotational movements through the midline, like, dumbbell chops, landmine rotational things and stuff like that. So I 100% agree. I think those things go way faster than you would expect them to go. But I think that by doing them, especially at the age that we're at, around 40 plus or minus, I think that stuff is still there and it's able to be enhanced through just a very small dose. Like we know, you don't need a ton to, especially when you're going from nothing to something. Like just doing something makes a huge difference. And I think, like I was saying, throughout the lifespan, the time that you need to spend on each of these buckets probably shifts slightly. Like I'm thinking of Kim's mom or my mom or something like that, who's in their mid to late 70s. Like they probably still need strength training and endurance training. That's probably still the majority of what they do. But instead of it being 45 minutes of resistance training 3 times a week and 45 minutes of endurance 3 times a week, maybe it's 20 to 30 minutes of resistance training and 20 to 30 minutes of endurance training. And then they're spending more time on plyometric balance and mobility and kind of filling those buckets in. So I think that the nature of spending 30 to 60 minutes a day, 6 days a week provides you with a lot of freedom to kind of fill the buckets that you need for wherever you are in your journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting concept. Yeah. I haven't really thought much about it, but I'm interested to see what you come up with.
Yeah. I mean, I think for the most part, it's going to look like just a typical like 3-day resistance training program and 3-day cardiovascular program. But then there's these additional things that can be added in on top to just kind of make sure that everything's taken care of as far as, health and longevity and wellness and all of that's concerned. So it's something I'm just kind of still working through in my brain on how I want it to appear and all that. But I think that especially as I get older and my followers get older, the people, like, they're going to want something that's more than just being as jacked and tan as possible all the time. So it's just another kind of thing that I am finding a bit of passion in and starting to move more towards in my own training as well, which has been fun. All right. And then what else? So I talked about that. Yeah, so I
You
guess as far
mentioned
as
you mentioned talking about something with changes to Paragon coming up.
yeah, yeah, so we have a new strength cycle starting on November 3rd, and before we took our hiatus from the podcast, we had mentioned that the 3-day physique program was going to trial a different structure where instead of being lower, upper, and full body across the 3 days, it would go lower, upper, lower 1 week and then upper, lower, upper the next week. And through some discussions with Lori and our members at Paragon, it seems like we're probably going to move in the direction for the strength cycle, at least, that we go back to the lower, upper, full body, because it's kind of, I would say, difficult and slightly less productive to do a strength cycle with that structure. In that, like, some days you would have a week where you're deadlifting and squatting, and then a week where you're only getting one of those in. And so it makes the progressions much harder across a 6-week cycle. And it makes it a little bit more difficult given the highly demanding nature of some of these strength movements during a strength cycle, with the deadlift and the squat and all that, to continue to fit in all of your desired cardiovascular work around it. Whereas during a hypertrophy cycle, where the movements are significantly less demanding and less fatiguing on the system, that it's going to be easier to kind of fit some of that cardio in there. So as of this moment, it seems like we're going to go back to that kind of full body Friday for the strength cycle, and then kind of revisit the structure as we get into the next hypertrophy cycle after that. But this is not like 100% decided. It's just kind of where we're leaning. We took a poll as well to see what people wanted, and it seemed like for the strength cycle specifically, people also seem to align with the idea of having that full body day on Friday. So we'll see how that goes. And I'll update you guys next week once we have a little more clarity on that. But yeah, as far as my own training and stuff heading into winter, I had briefly mentioned in prior episodes that I was thinking about changing things up in some manner as I get out of bike season and have a little bit more time for training. And so I had discussed the idea of going with that like 3-day a week full body thing that Jake and Chris Beardsley are big on, where they're like, hey, you must train every muscle group every 48 to 72 hours with the same movements or else, and that just seems like less and less enticing to me now, because I think that it would just be, I would lack so much enjoyment having to do the same batch of exercises every 48 to 72 hours for however many weeks, that I just think it would lack so much enjoyment that even if that was 1 or 2% more productive than something else, it just, at this point in my training journey, doesn't really make sense. And I kind of would encourage other people that overanalyze things and get stuck in mechanistic data, or are following Chris and Jake and all of this full body stuff that they're promoting, that you just keep in mind that your success in the gym, as far as how much strength and muscle you gain, has to be mitigated in part by enjoyment. Like, if you're able to just turn your brain off and be like, hey, it's supposed to be a little bit better if I just do the same exercises every single session, and you can just go in, turn your brain off and just do that, like, sure, give it a try, see if that works for you. But for most people that actually like want to enjoy their training and feel like the exercise variety that they have is important to them, I just think you're going to get so much more out of your training if you play it to enjoyment, at least at some level, so that you're not just training for optimization all the time. And, and also to point out, like I've done many times, that anecdotally, we have plenty of people that are really jacked and don't train on that exact structure that they talk about. And I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't be any more jacked if they somehow managed to train in that way and turn their brain off and just show up every day and do the same exercises. Like, people just don't do that. I mean, yes, in the pre-steroid era back in the day, that's more or less what people did. To me, like, I think enjoyment is important. So as I go through and think about what I want to do over the winter, I'm torn between two things. One being just continue exactly what I'm doing, which is alternating upper, lower, upper 1 week and then lower, upper, lower the next week, and doing my cardio on the in-between days. And I've been doing that now for a few months, and it works so well. I don't have to think about it so much. I just show up, do my work, progress where I can, and that's great. I also like that sort of fits into that 3-day or that 6-day structure that I talked about on the Jordan Lips podcast, where I'm lifting 3 days, I'm doing cardio 3 days, and then I have kind of one free day to whatever I end up doing that day is fine. So I'm torn between that, and I'm torn between going back and doing another cycle of my intelligent bro split, which I did 2 years ago, kind of based on like the max OT structure of one muscle group a day. It would be like a 5 or 6 day a week program. Not a typical bro split in that it's not just chest Monday, back Tuesday, legs Wednesday type thing, but more that I'm making sure that each muscle group is getting hit twice. So like on chest day, there's some lateral delts. On delt day, there's some incline pressing. On tricep and bicep day, there's some dips. So you're getting chest sort of 3 times a week. You're doing pull-ups on arm day as well. So you're getting back twice, like kind of more an intelligent way to set up that structure. And the nice thing about that is that it's really short sessions. Like I'd be in the gym for 40 minutes, maybe. It's every day, which then gets me back to having to do double days where I'm doing cardio and lifting on some days, which I don't love. Like one of the things that I'm very happy with my current structure of 3 lifting days and 3 cardio days is that I never have to do a double day. It's just I wake up and I have one hard thing that I need to do that day. And that's been really good for me. So I think that I find myself leaning toward that structure a little bit more than the intelligent bro split. But because it's been so long that I've done anything like the bro split, it is intriguing to me, especially in the winter where it's really cold and maybe I don't want to be outside doing cardio all the time, or I don't want to sit inside on a rower or a treadmill or something like that. This would at least allow me to continue to do something hard every day, but it would come at the expense of my cardiovascular fitness. So those are kind of the thoughts going through my head on my training coming up.
Yeah, mine is quite similar. I like started to dig into it, and then with the travel, it really kind of fell apart because when I found myself at these cool gyms, I'm like, well, I'm not going to not train tomorrow. So how can I finagle things so that I could train for the next like 5 days straight? And then we didn't talk about this, but on my way back from Utah, I stopped in Dubai for like a 36-hour period, and I literally just trained. I woke up, I went to the hotel buffet, I went to the gym number 1, I trained legs for like 2.5 hours. I got a little post-workout meal right at the gym, talked with the owner about equipment for a little bit, took an Uber to a coffee shop, which was near the other gym, had a cappuccino that was recommended to me as one of the best coffee places in Dubai, went to the other gym, trained push for 90 minutes, ate there, and then went to the grocery store and then Ubered home, and it was like 9 p.m. And I literally just lifted weights all day in 2 different gyms, and that's what I did in Dubai.
That's awesome. Was Jenny with you for that?
No, of course not, because it would have never flew. But it never got approved if she was there.
Right.
Yeah, it was really cool. The really, really sick gyms. They also have this thing there called hypermarkets. It's like a supermarket on the next level. It's like, how the Super Saiyans in Dragon Ball Z have their like levels. It's like hypermarket. And it was very fitting. It was like a regular supermarket, like think like Wegmans, but like Sam's Club sized.
Wow. That's Dubai-ish. That's like what you'd expect in Dubai.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, okay, they're doing some things right here. It had everything under the sun. And I was like, okay, I went to get like dark chocolate. There was like 60 fucking options.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, you kind of want less options sometimes.
Yeah, seriously. My dumbass is sitting there like, I'm never going to be able to pick one. Yeah, it was pretty impressive of what they have, how they have things. Yeah. Everything was so efficient. It felt like the time I went to Singapore and I was like stepping into the future, and I was like, oh, wow, things are very efficiently done here. This is different.
Yeah, that's cool. I know, as I mentioned to you before we got on air, I've gotten a few DMs from people that want me to dig into your specific training. You had mentioned it briefly on prior episodes where you're like, yeah, I'm just going to, train 3 days a week, do some cardio and, most sets to failure, low volume. And you just kind of like brushed over it, and everyone's like, no, we want details. Like we want to know everything Aaron's doing because he's so jacked. And And that's what we need to do. So this will be the last thing we do before we sign off here. It's already 7:05. Run us through is it still like the idea is 3 training days, 3 cardio days?
I think I'm going to do 4 and 3, and then have 1 overlap, because I like to have Sundays off, and I really don't like the training.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I just don't like when Sunday rolls around and it's like, oh, you have legs today. And I'm just like, oh, fuck, dude. No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. So if you're doing 4 training days of lifting, what do those look like? What is the body part split?
Upper, lower, 2 times.
Sweet.
An A and a B of each. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, an A and a B and of each. So you would hit the same movements again 1 week later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And I'll just briefly get through the cardio and then we'll go back to the gym stuff. So you want to essentially be doing 2 like zone 2-ish slower sessions and then 1 kind of harder sprint session. Is that the idea?
What I'm actually going to do is 1 zone 2, 1 like zone 3, which is what I did today, which is literally like 30 minutes on the stair climber, heart rate at like 140, 145, which I did today. I was almost perfectly in zone 3 the entire time. And then 1 day will be like the high intensity intervals hit sprints.
Sweet. Yeah. That's literally exactly what I recommend to people that have 3 lifting days and 3 cardio days. That's exactly it. 1 long zone 2 that's like an hour, 1 shorter zone 3 that's like 30 to 40 minutes, and then 1 sprint session that has like, 15 to 20 minutes of work time. So I think that that's right in line with, what I'd recommend. It's perfect for all the cardiovascular things that you would need to at least maintain a base and improve it a little bit, depending on where your starting point is. And then as far as lifting, take us through, and we probably don't need to go through both upper body days and both lower body days, but if you wouldn't mind taking us through 1 lower body day and 1 upper body day with the exercises and the sets that you're doing.
Yep. So I have 1 upper body day written. I don't have the other one because I haven't done it, because I only got like 1, not even a full weekend before we started traveling. And then I had to pivot based on the gyms that I had access to. But the 1 upper body day I wanted to make it a little bit more like old school a bit, and a little bit more like shotgun-esque approach with some of my exercise selection. So the 1 upper body day, and I didn't put any arms into this yet because immediately post-show, I couldn't train any arms because I needed to fit into my suit. But the 1 upper body day has my 2 pulling movements I have weighted pull-ups. I do 2 warm-up sets, body weight only, and then 1 weighted set. And then once I reach like 10 reps, I'm going to, increment load. So that's 1. My other back movement on that day is a hinge over or a bent over cambered bar row, which I'm really enjoying. So that way I get a little bit of like posterior chain work and the bracing isometric part of that.
Is that for 1 set as well?
1 set. Everything's going to be one hard set to failure and move on.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So 1 set of pulls is that pronated overhand pull up?
Correct. Yes.
And then pronated overhand row as well. Okay.
And obviously I'm biasing things towards my like weaknesses.
Yeah,
right?
which is your upper back, as you've said. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. The pressing on that day, the chest press is seated cable chest press in the free motion. That's arguably my favorite chest press.
I love it.
And then it's so good. And then the incline I have on that day is our leverage incline press. I set it very, very high leverage, and then you get a very nice convergence on it. So that's my 2 pressing. And then on that day, so that's 4 exercises. I'll have 1 lateral delt, 1 bicep, and 1 tricep. So 7 total exercises, 1 set each.
Dude, that's literally exactly how my upper body day looks. I have 2 back exercises, 2 chest exercises, 1 delt, 1 bicep, 1 tricep. So yeah, same thing, 7 exercises. I'm doing 2 sets each for everything, and you're doing 1 set each, which is certainly interesting, which means that across both of your upper body days, and I guess lower body days too, but you're essentially getting 4 sets per week for chest and back, and 2 sets per week for delts, bis, and tris.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it would be the same, I assume. Or I'll go through a leg day and then we can assess that as well.
Yeah, legs going to be very similar. So the interesting thing is it's really all goal specific, right? Like I can't afford to grow. So it's really, I want to spend less time at the gym. And now with like Jackson being back and stuff, we're actually able to do like work on the gym. So every time I go to the gym, like I'm going to have minimum of like 30 minutes of like, we're checking this work or like I'm installing something. So I want to cut down my time of training because I'm inherently going to have like 30 minutes of admin type stuff there anyway.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was like 226 pounds today, and I'm
Right.
only on 160 milligrams of testosterone per week, and I'm above the body weight that I want. I'm still, I would say max 9% body fat, absolute maximum. So I have these problems I never thought I would have. So I don't need more volume because I don't want to get any bigger than I am right now. In full
Are you still
transparency.
are you still going to be trying to progress and increase strength and all that stuff?
And that's the thing. Like that is the primary function is I want progression every single week. So I'm going to test very low volume with a very, very high priority on I got 8 reps last week. I need to mentally lock in and treat this set like I forget what I think. I think I said 8 reps. I'm getting 9 reps. So like that's what that's the whole premise of my program is a very, very high priority on a weekly rep progression.
Yeah. Cool. That's awesome. All right. So take us through legs.
Yep. So leg session 1 is I'm going to calves are always first. So either seated calf raise or standing calf raise. I always prefer a hamstring curl before any knee flexion. So let's call it we have 3 hamstring curls at Undefeated because I got to choose the equipment. So of course I was putting a standing, a prone, and a seated in. So I have choice there. Let's call it seated hamstring curl. And then I will go into probably leg extension. I've been putting my squat pattern movements at the very, very end because of the systemic fatigue. And then once it's done, I can just go home.
Yep.
So I do that. So like leg extension will go in. The one day I have a glute in there, not a hip hinge. So I think I have like a Bulgarian or something like that. And then I have one set of like a knee flexion. We just got the Gymleco pendulum in, which I'm very excited about. I found one in Indonesia and jumped on it. So that's been I haven't used it yet, but that will go into the program for sure.
So it looks like your leg day really only has 5 total sets, like 1 calf raise, 1 leg extension, 1 leg curl, 1 glute or hinge, and 1 squat pattern.
Yeah, and so that's I've only run that one once, and depending on how I feel, I may add a hinge and a glute. And what I might do, or what I will do, is like we have a gluteator. So I will train that just because we have it. Why not? And then I forgot I did this. I did our glute kickback machine because I was kind of just see, there's this equipment in the gym that, I selected. I've never even fucking touched or used. Like I might as well use it. So, I will put 1 glute in each one. As we're talking through this, it like jogs my memory because this is now like over a month ago when I did this. And I only got to run through it once. So yeah, I will put the gluteator in for the glutes on one day, which is just incline hip abduction. And then the other day will be the glute kickback.
Sweet. Yeah, that sounds great, man. I mean, our programs are very similar at this point. You're doing slightly lower volume, but it's actually kind of inspiring to me that maybe I will even drop my volume. Like there's something mentally that I've noticed that like a year or 2 ago, I used to be like, man, doing that 3rd set is so mentally exhausting once you've already done 2. So I dropped down to 2 sets. And now it's kind of like, man, once you've really put in all that effort to try to progress 1 set, you're kind of like, man, mentally, I've already done what I feel like I need to do today. So going in and doing that 2nd set, like, what am I really achieving? It's almost like there's like a subconscious sandbagging maybe that occurs because you have to do a 2nd set. Whereas when there's only 1 set, it's like, hey, this is all I got. My whole goal for the day is to just exceed what I did the last time on this 1 set. And then I don't have to think about it again for another week. And there's something really beautiful about that. So It's intriguing to me. I'm gonna follow along and see how single sets work for you, and maybe start kind of parsing myself towards that direction as well.
The one final thing that I forgot about, again, like these are all things I had kind of written down, but I haven't touched it since I did it. I'm placing a very high intention on my movement quality, like way higher than I ever have. So like my pendulum squat set is going to be like very smooth, controlled, eccentric, a pause in the bottom, making sure that I have like equal foot distribution, that I'm not getting any like knee valgus or anything. Like I'm really focusing on like the movement quality and ensuring that when I rack that, I'm thinking immediately to myself, like, where do I feel that stimulus is where I want it to go? Specifically for my upper back. That's like my biggest weakness. So whenever I'm doing like those rows and stuff, I'm really thinking about, is the stimulus going where I want it to go, and how can I improve upon that? So I'm really, really dialing up the emphasis on like specificity and execution. And I'm doing this big experiment. Like, who knows? And 8 months could go by or 6 months could go by, and like, I'm worse. Like that very well could happen. But I'm going to try to really, really focus in on like intent and movement quality more than I ever have, and not let like my ego and the food and stuff just drive like yanking on it and stuff, just to test the new method, and because like I said, the goal is different. The goal is kind of like keep my body weight pretty much where it is, a few pounds lighter than I am right now, and just see if I can like improve my upper back. It's pretty much the goal.
Man.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. Yeah. And well, I'm curious to follow along and see how everything goes, especially if you can improve your upper back with literally 4 sets a week, 2 sets done twice a week. Then I think that's a huge testament to the fact that like in general, like maybe people don't need as much volume as they think if they can be super precise and dialed in with the technique and the loading and the failure and all of that stuff. And of course there's individual differences. Like some people are going to be responsive more to lower set volume than others will. But I think the main thing that determines that is really that kind of execution and specificity that you're able to apply to the movement to make sure you're getting the most out of it. So super cool.
Yep. I'm excited. I just feel fired up about everything right now. I'm excited for the rest of the year. So
very cool.
We'll talk
and
about
then
it.
Any other insight on when you guys are moving to Salt Lake, or it's still kind of spring, early summer kind of idea?
Oh, probably like February, early March sort of
cool.
things. So
that's
yeah,
way sooner than I thought. Cool.
Yeah. Commitments still keep me here through at least the end of January. And then, yeah, probably somewhere in that time frame. Or what might end up happening is we like buy a home and it sits for 6 weeks or something like that before we move into it, and all that's
Sweet.
perfectly fine. Yep.
All right. Well, that's awesome. I'm really glad we got to kind of have this thorough update of everything the last 3 weeks. And I guess we'll be back next week with more of like a proper episode, maybe a Q&A or something like that. It's been a while.
Definitely. Q&A sounds good for next week.
Sweet.
All right, guys, as always, thank you for listening. Bryan and I will talk to you next week with a Q&A episode.